Hello everyone, welcome back to the series where I just basically read off a character's backstory. This is a series where I cover a character's backstory, and some of the things about them so you can gain a better understanding of that character. And plus, it also justifies my crippling genshin addiction. But you don't need to know that. In today's video, we're gonna learn about one of the most mysterious characters in Mondstadt. And of course, we all know about this character, because he's one of the first few characters you unlock when playing the game. That's right, today's video is going to be about Mondstadt's Frostwind Swordsman of the Knights of Favonius, aka Kaeya. Kaeya is a crowd sword character who excels at either being a burst support or is an excellent crowd DPS for your team, which makes him able to either support characters that fight at close range, or he can switch it up and decide to do the fighting himself. This makes him quite a good and diverse character to have on your team during the start of the game. Whether it has to do with his past or his family name, no one is as mysterious as Kaeya. Hopefully by the end of this video you'll be more interested in this character, because I sure am. Honestly, at some point his backstory gave me more questions than answers about his past. Well, with that said, let us now learn about the Quartermaster of the Knights of Favonius, aka Kaeya. Trivia. Kaeya's constellation name is Favonius, which means Peacock Eye Spot. Kaeya's family name, Albrecht, means ruler of supernatural beings, which could refer to the fact that the Albrecht clan were the ruling regents of Conria. Kaeya's favorite wine is called Death Afternoon, which is a particularly strong wine. In the Chinese version, Kaeya is referred to as Diluc Yidi, which means sworn younger brother, which Diluc is referred to as Yishong, which means sworn older brother. This shows that Kaeya might be younger than Diluc, but there are sources saying this might be false, so who knows. Kaeya has always claimed that he inherited his eye patch from his grandfather, and that's just for show. But during the Hidden Strife event, if you went to the roof of the Favonius headquarters, you can find a mysterious brick that hides a bunch of hidden letters. In those letters, we learn that his birth family, the Albrecht clan, were the ruling regents of Conria following the Cataclysm. Reading these letters also tells us that Kaeya wears his eye patch to cover the scar in his right eye, the scar he got from his fight with Diluc. However, he isn't blind in his right eye. This fact also matches the description of Kaeya's constellation. You know, I feel like the Hidden Strife event was Genshin's excuse to do a huge lore dump for Mondstadt. Well, now that we're done with the trivia, let's now learn the backstory of Kaeya, the cunning Calvery captain of the Knights of Favonius. Character details. Kaeya Albrecht is the adopted son to the Ragenvinder family, the renowned wine tycoon. It has been a long time since he last called Diluc Ragenvinder brother. Kaeya currently serves as the cavalry captain of the Knights of Favonius, and is trusted by Jean. Kaeya is often the one wrapping things up in every incident that occurs in Mondstadt's vicinity. Wow, that was very short and straight to the point. I guess this matches Kaeya's character and how he never talks about his past and lies about some part of it. Although I kinda wish they would've added more. Hi, it turns out that most of the characters that came out during the start of the game have short character details, and I, for some reason, didn't check this until this section of the video was done, so yeah, just ignore everything I said. Story 1. It is a curious fact that your best chance of finding Kaeya is not by visiting the Knight's headquarters, but by frequenting the taverns at night. Kaeya is often found sitting at the bar, gossiping with the city folk and sipping the famed Mondstadt beverage, Death Afternoon. He is surprisingly popular among the elderly of Mondstadt, even earning himself the title of top candidate for grandson-in-law. It is hard to imagine someone as mischievous, amiable, and wine-loving as Kaeya being the cavalry captain of the Knights of Favonius. Hunters and bands alike are often among Kaeya's drinking buddies. As wary of him as they may initially be, all are ultimately disarmed by his smooth talking and end up telling him everything he wants to know. Depending on what they make private to Kaeya, their night may turn into an uncontrollable nightmare or remain one of harmless banter. Everyone's got their secret, but not everyone knows what to do with it, says Kaeya with his usual arrogant smirk. So story 1 definitely goes into more detail on what type of person he is compared to character details. He gets the job done by using his amazing charisma to interrogate his enemies, getting any information he wants out of them. He's so good to the point where it's actually kinda scary. Also, I'm pretty sure the other reason he goes to the bar a lot is to also get drunk. Story 2. Justice is not an absolute principle, but it's the result of striking the fine balance between strength and strategy. As for the details of how it's done, don't worry yourself too much about that. Kaeya once said these words in front of Grandmaster Varka. As long as everything falls into place the way he expects in the end, Kaeya doesn't care all that much about the means. This cavalier attitude is what defines his character. Not so unlike Death Afternoon's wild and explosive taste, one might add. However, his reckless approach to things is not uncontroversial. Once, in order to force a bandit leader into facing him directly, Kaeya triggered the Rune Garden at an ancient rune to cut his opponent off, putting his own men at risk in the process.
Oh, no.
It's times like these where even Jean, who puts a lot of trust in Kaeya, finds herself shaking her head in disapproval. Not that this bothers Kaeya, of course. On the contrary, he actually enjoys putting people into difficult positions of making tough decisions. He takes pleasure in seeing the hesitation in his comrades' eyes in the moment just before they dive into battle with him, just as he takes pleasure in the look of fear in his enemies' eyes as they face off against him. Wow, this story was really unexpected, especially for Kaeya, but I guess when it comes to him, it's not really surprising. Hey, at least he gets the job done, albeit he does it in a very questionable way. Story 3. The flourishing winery business in Mondstadt has been a great source of prosperity in the region over the years, the prosperity often enticing greedy bandits and monsters to the area. They're a motley bunch who hide in the shadows, and their backgrounds, motives, and allegiances are varied and complex. Kaeya battles against these threats to Mondstadt not only with his sword, but also with his smarts and his wits. A young knight once dedicated years of his life to studying threats in and around Mondstadt, and reached an astounding conclusion. When Death Afternoon's out of season due to the lack of supply, the number of reported incidents inside and outside the city show a drastic decrease, and this remains the case until Death Afternoon returns to the market. The young knight showed his findings to Calvery Captain Kaeya in hopes of getting some advice from him. Interesting. I'll look into it, Kaeya answered with a weary smirk on his face. Now this is an excellent backstory for Kaeya. The way they show his determination for the things he loves and how he's able— Just kidding. It's nice to see that he puts his skills to good use, although booze is, an interesting motivator. Also, this is like the 5th time his backstory mentions Death Afternoon. What's up with that? Story 4. Generally speaking, Kaeya's an easy person to have a conversation with. The only topic you never hear him discuss is his past. Even when the Grandmaster demanded information on his background, Kaeya skirted around the issue and gave only vague answers devoid of details. One afternoon, near the end of summer a decade ago, my father and I passed the Dawn Winery. I'll go get some grape juice for the road, he said, but he never came back. If Master Crepus hadn't taken me in, I doubt I'd have made it through the storm that night. This matter-of-fact description hides a carefully constructed lie. Kaeya has never once spoken the truth about what happened that afternoon. This is your chance. You're our last hope. Kaeya's father squeezed his son Lean's shoulder as he spoke, seemingly looking right through Kaeya to someplace far beyond. On the other side of the horizon sat their distant homeland of Conria. Kaeya would never forget the look of both hope and hatred in his father's eyes as he uttered those words. Dang, that story went dark. Wait, why is he the last hope? What does his father want him to achieve? Will this be relevant to the main story? I thought these stories were made so we can understand the character better, but now I'm confused. You know what? I'm just gonna stick to the grape juice story. Story 5. Many citizens still remember the 2 most eye-catching young gentlemen in all of Mondstadt a few years ago. One of them was the dapper Diluc, an elegant swordsman who always had a warm smile and a confident posture. The other was the eccentric Kaeya. He was Diluc's friend, supporter, and sounding board, ensuring he got through every challenge he faced smoothly. They were almost like twins, knowing each other's thoughts and intentions without a word, protecting Mondstadt in both light and dark. Until that fateful day, now engraved deep in Kaeya's memories, when the convoy that Diluc was escorting was attacked by a huge monster. It was the first and only time that Kaeya failed in his duty. By the time Kaeya finally reached Diluc, it was all over. The power their father had used to successfully fend off the attack backfired, taking their father's life. Both Kaeya and Diluc were shocked by what they had witnessed, losing the calm composure a knight should retain. Even someone like Master Crepus would submit to such a dangerous and evil power. Sinister thoughts flashed through Kaeya's mind, and he simply smirked. This world is truly fascinating. All while their father lay dead in the pool of his own blood. It was on that night that the 2 sons' paths diverged. Wow, that just got even more darker. Although I already knew about this since I read the webtoons, which you should read, it's pretty cool how his backstory delves deeper into how Kaeya felt during the event, and how much it impacts him, especially later on in his backstory. You know what? I'm glad I took the time to read through his backstory and get to know more about him. A list. Between the pages to the Adventures of Angelos, you'll find a list of names written on a sheet of official Knights of Favonius letterhead paper. It meticulously records the details of bandits in the city and further afield, as well as mercenaries and mid to senior level treasure hoarder members, listing for each entry a name, position, area of activity, and personal profile. A dozen or so names are circled, with a note in the margin saying, "Otherwise, things will get too boring." When questioned about it, Kaeya's response is, "I suppose I must have gotten drunk and started scribbling nonsense." Your gut feeling is that Kaeya purposely let you see this list, but you have no way of proving it. That's a bit random, but I guess it makes sense as he's Diluc's brother. I guess both of them have the same sense of justice, both of them wanting to defeat criminals without the restrictions of the Knights of Favonius. That's pretty cool, although why did he purposely have the list revealed to whoever found it? Vision. It was raining heavily in Mondstadt on the night that Kaeya Albrecht received his vision. Earlier that day, Krepus Ragavinder had wielded the power of a delusion, only to become its victim when it backfired. To set his father free for the unbearable agony, Diluc Ragavinder took his life. Kaeya was Diluc's brother by adoption and was always by his side, but on this occasion, Kaeya did not partake in the final moments shared between father and son. The torrential rain that set on Mondstadt that night seemed to be a sign of the heaven's grief at the passing of Master Krepus. There was a side to Kaeya that he kept hidden from the world. In truth, he was an ancient of Conria placed in Mondstadt to serve their interest. His father had abandoned him in this strange and unknown land to fulfill this mission, and it was Master Krepus in the city of Mondstadt that had welcomed him with open arms when they found him. If Conria and Mondstadt went to war, which side should he support? To whom should he offer his assistance? His birth father who ruthlessly abandoned him, or his adoptive father who had loved him and raised him? For the longest time, Kaeya had agonized over these impossible questions, caught between the opposing demands of loyalty and duty, faced with the impossible choice between truth and happiness. But now, Krepus' death upset this delicate balance. He felt liberated, but also ashamed of how selfishly he was responding. As an adoptive son, he should have saved Krepus, but he had arrived moments too late. As a brother, he should have shared in Diluc's grief, and yet as their father lay dying on the ground, he had hung back behind his brother, the ancient plot running through his mind. Consumed by guilt, Kaeya knocked on Diluc's door. As the rain poured down, the shroud of secrecy was washed away and all lies were revealed. Kaeya had finally come clean. He had anticipated Diluc's anger. The brothers drew their blades, this time pointing them at each other. Kaeya felt like this was his punishment for a lifetime of lies. But as the two crossed blades, Kaeya was overcome by the sensation of great elemental power surging through him. For years, he had stayed out of the way in his brother's shadow. But now, for the first time ever, he was facing his brother as his true self. Bitterly cold and brutal elemental energy burst forth from the tip of his sword to meet Diluc's searing flames head-on. The clash of crimson fire and azure ice created a sudden swirl of wind that stunned them both. This was the grim moment at which Kaeya's vision appeared. Since that day, Kaeya and Diluc have gone their separate ways, but he never discusses it, just as he never discusses the origin of his vision. Though it's a reminder of a hard-fought battle, and the prize that he earned in exchange for revealing the unadulterated truth, Kaeya sees it as a stern reminder that he must live the rest of his life under the heavy burden of lies. Well, that's all there is to Kaeya's backstory. Wow, that was way darker than I expected, but what can you expect from someone as secretive as Kaeya? Since I went to his backstory blind, I was kinda confused about a lot of things, but by the time I reached the vision part, that's when it all came together. Kaeya, being a secret agent for Conria, was sent to Mondstadt for reasons unknown. Even his father, who had sacrificed himself for the mission, ended up abandoning his son in a foreign land with nothing. But even though Kaeya was an outsider to Mondstadt, they decided to welcome him with open arms, especially Diluc's dad. For all they know, he could have been part of the Fatui or something. And because of this, the guilt from all of the lies he's done slowly builds up until the day of Krepus' death, where he finally reveals the truth to Diluc. Nowadays, he still puts his skills to good use by helping the Knights of Favonius with various missions, but at least he's able to become good friends with the Traveler, and because of that, he became just a little less lonely. Kaeya's backstory was interesting compared to the others, and it was an enjoyable read. Hopefully y'all think the same. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then like and subscribe. If you want to choose the next character I talk about, then leave a comment down below. Well, that's the video. Goodbye!
Yo quiero Taco Bell.